Friday that'll go down in history in the DMV. Dan Snyder has agreed officially to sell the Washington Commanders to Josh Harris and company. That is an official sale agreement. It is binding. It is now pending the approval of 24 of the 32 NFL owners, which could come as soon as the league meetings in Minneapolis at the end of the month. Actually, 10 days from now, May 22nd, is when those start. To talk about it, Clinton Yates for his unusual Friday visit.
So, first of all, I just want to say to everybody listening, you guys do not understand how good of a job Craig is doing managing everything that's been happening from a news standpoint today as a host. When you've got interviews and breaking news that affects the previous interviews and then other people who want to talk about it, you're ringleading a real circus here. Good job, brother.
Thank you. I feel like I'm in the middle of a circus. I can't tell whether I feel like a clown yet or an actual ringleader, but I will take your kind words and I guess I'm doing a good job. It's finally done. Dan has said, I am selling. Does this change how you feel at all compared to a month ago when we talked about this and it was like, well, he's agreed, but it's not exclusive. There's still a lot of hurdles. This is kind of it. How do you feel?
You know, it's interesting because this is where I take off a little bit of the journalist hat and I come back to not just the DC native hat, but the sports fan hat and the former fan of this team hat. I don't know that I ever in my life have been a part of an experience that I felt I could describe any way other than a moral victory. That is basically exactly what's happened in this situation. And it's fascinating because overall, I think about this all the time because I'm like, would I care? If he sold the team, would I come rushing back? Would the memories all be there? I went to every single home game the last time this team won a Super Bowl, including both playoff games. I was a child. It was my formative experience with sports and with RFK Stadium. And still to me today, I'm just sort of like, man, I'm happy for my friends, and there's a long way to still go. So it's an interesting feeling, and I'm glad it's happening. But overall, I feel like this market, as in the D.C. market, is closer to an expansion market than it is anything else right now between the stadium situation being what it is and, quite frankly, the state of the actual football team, which is ultimately the most important scenario of all.
Yeah, so when you say there's a long way to go and they're an expansion team, I think I know what you mean. I mean, it's also like, hey, there's a new brand. They've lost so much of the fan base. In many ways, it does feel like starting over. But, if there's a long way to go, what's on the to-do list through your vantage point?
Stadium's got to be first, if for no other reason than the fan experience for all the people who fought so hard for it to happen at all. That's the kind of thing I think about now. All of these fans, what you have now, Gregory, for the Washington football franchise, the Commanders, you basically have diehards and nobody else. You've lost so many people. And I feel like whatever this new ownership group does, the first thing you do is you address the humans that have stayed. That is hugely important. And whether or not that's in whether you can get a stadium in one place or another, make sure you listen to those people as far as whatever the fan experience is going to be. That, to me, has to be number one, because otherwise you can't punish a group who actually hung around by then going on to say that you're sort of smarter than they are as to how you're going to do it. It'll be interesting to see how that relationship evolves over the course of the next couple of years, because, again, you got a lot to do before you're really in a place where you can act like you're, really contending for anything as far as NFL experiences are concerned.
So Clinton Yates with us, of course, ESPN, DC native, just as he just said, grew up going to the games at RFK, the whole deal. One thing that we've talked about, some on the air, some off of it, is the idea of holding on to the past, and it kind of ties into what you were just talking about, right? You still have all these diehards, and some of them are just diehard football fans, but some of them are diehards who went through many of the same experiences you did as a kid, but kept them closer as their formative experiences and hold them closer to their identity as a fan than obviously you and many others have, who were like, I can't do this anymore, I'm letting go.
Right.
As Josh Harris takes over, where do you think the line is? And I realize this is an abstract question, but where is the line of holding on to the past and the things that people love about this team and still connecting to the diehards and having that fresh start that is so badly needed in so many ways?
It's going to be the single hardest part about what they do as far as off-field operations are concerned, because, again, you're a little bit hamstrung because the history is not something that we can really celebrate. What are you going to do? Celebrate the 50-odd years of a team with a racist mascot name, no matter how many rings they won? Or what are you going to do? Celebrate the subsequent 30 years when they didn't win jack, and then they still changed the name anyway? It's a really tricky position to be in. And this is, again, where I think the people who support this team, and I don't just mean the fans who show up at the stadium at this point. I mean folks around town who have made that squad and that franchise a part of their identity. That's what you've got to tie into. You've got to tie into the actual human beings who care. And rightfully so, because it's a big part of who they are. It can't just be about, oh, my God, look at the brand, look at how cool we are, we're back. It's got to be about, these are the people that kept us there, and this is the reason why we decided we wanted it at all. That, to me, seems obvious, just in terms of how you want to interface with your fan base.
Yeah, and it's hard. I've seen this. Some other teams that have gone through rebranding and just as things change, people that have been supportive all along can feel left behind. And there's kind of a business decision you have to make of how much do we care about, and not that like, hey, we don't care, bleep you, right? But it's like, can you rely on a kind of cold-hearted business decision that the people that have hung around this long are going to complain but still come and spend the money and do the things anyway while also recruiting the new people? And that's the balance there's no right answer because it's going to be different through the eye of any beholder depending on whether they're a new person, whether they're an old person, so to speak. And obviously there's a bottom line that is affected by all of that because this is, at the end of the day, a business. But to me, that's such a fascinating thing. And whether it's Jason Wright or whoever replaces Jason Wright ultimately executing that vision, they've kind of got to make this decision of like, how much are we willing to, kind of piss off some old school fans that have hung through, who we know are going to hang through anyway, to recruit the people that have left. And by the way, new potential fans that are young and hopefully can become fans that are, whether they're new to the area or however they're getting new exposure to this quasi new franchise.
It's, and you're exactly right about that, because that's, again, where the moral victory comes in. Do you want to do the right thing, or do you want to do the thing that you think is going to work? And do you think that they're the same thing? And you don't have to go far to find an example, Gregory. This is exactly what Theodore Leonsis was dealing with the Washington Capitals. When they first moved downtown and the whole, we're going to change the colors, rock the red, we got new guys. There are a lot of people that have been heading out to Landover for years that were like, what's all this? You know what I mean? It worked out. They ended up sinking 2 generations of fan bases between each other because they won a Stanley Cup. But, yeah, that is vital, and especially for a team that was ever 10 times, 1,500 more times more popular than that team was on the ice. It's going to be A1 as far as the matter is concerned off the field. How do you interface with the people that actually care and never stop caring? I think that's going to be the biggest question to ask of Josh Harris when he gets to town, because that's where it helps from being a local. At least he knows what it feels like on some level.
Brian Mitchell joins us in 5 minutes. Last question for Clinton Yates would be, can they do this without winning big? And I don't mean to say that I'm guaranteeing that they're not going to, but there's an element of luck that is required for football success. There's a lot of stuff that you can do on the business and marketing side that doesn't require any luck. It is enhanced by the good luck of your football team being good, which can be influenced by any number of factors, from your 5th-round pick quarterback turning out to be awesome to him being terrible, and then you get the number 1 pick in the draft, you get Caleb Williams next year. Those would be considered good luck, or the bad luck of him being somewhere in the middle, and thus you are stuck in the middle as well. So is there a way, I think of this question because of the Caps example you just brought up, that they can bridge that gap, that they can be successful and rebuild the brand without being super competitive on the field? Or is it completely reliant on that, and really all of the rest of this is completely ancillary? It may not even matter at all.
It would help. It's not required. That's why fans of the Burgundy and Gold are who they are. After that run that I told you that I saw that team win when I was a kid, they made the playoffs once when I was in middle school, once when I was in high school, once when I was in college, once when I was in 20s, and once when I was in my 30s. These people still show up to some degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that you don't have a choice in that matter. And look, all I hope is that the people that come in respect what has been here and don't just take it for granted, as was what happened with the previous human being who claimed to be somebody that was looking out in the best interest of everyone, when in fact was just looking out in the best interest of themselves. The fun part about the NFL experience is enjoying it with your friends. At least make sure the people who have been doing that the whole time can continue to do so.
Very much appreciate you calling back in. And the really fun segment that we did at 2 o'clock today will be up on YouTube in a little bit.
That's great. I'll talk to you later, buddy. Have a great weekend, Gregory.
Thank you, sir. Clinton Yates with us here on the Hoffman Show. His Friday visit, a double dose of Yates. One of them is not going to make the radio, but that's okay. It'll be on YouTube and in our podcast feed in just a little bit.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.